A woman marches up my driveway wearing her expensive $1,000 UGG boots, shouting and waving a cease and desist letter in the air. She's demanding that I stop using my snowblower and is even threatening me with $500 per day fines, claiming I'm disturbing the peace on my own property. The irony is unbelievable. For the past 15 years, I've voluntarily cleared snow from every driveway in this neighborhood without charging a dime. Yet now, this self-appointed rule enforcer wants to penalize me for maintaining my own land. It's 6:15 in the morning, and I'm operating equipment on private property, perfectly within the law. Priscilla. You're just a grumpy old man who refuses to accept modern rules, she snaps. Her comment lingers in the cold morning air for a moment before reality hits me. She has no idea she just challenged a retired professional land surveyor. And the road she used to bring me that threat? She may want to find out who actually owns it. What would you do if your HOA tried something like this? Share your state below. And if you've ever dealt with a neighborhood Karen, you'll probably relate to this story. My name is Marcus Kellerman. I'm 58 years old, a retired land surveyor, and I've been clearing snow in this area since before many of these homes were even built. My property occupies a corner of what was once my grandfather's 160-acre Colorado prairie farm, land he worked until 1987. When developers arrived in the early 2000s, my wife Sarah and I decided to keep our 5 acres. Over time, they constructed Willowbrook estates all around us, leaving our property standing like a reminder of the area's past. Down in my basement office, the scent of old paper still rises from my grandfather's survey maps, carefully stored in metal tubes beside the tools and equipment from my surveying career. 3 years ago, Sarah lost a long and difficult battle with cancer. After her passing, the house felt painfully empty, and the weight of grief became almost unbearable. During that difficult time, I found comfort in a simple routine that began every morning at 6 a.m., clearing snow. After Sarah passed away, snow removal became more than a routine, it became a source of purpose. The steady vibration of the machine, the crunch of snow beneath my work boots, and the sound of the blade scraping across concrete gave me something to focus on when everything else felt empty. For 15 years, I cleared driveways throughout the neighborhood without charging a cent. I helped people like Mrs. Henderson, whose arthritis made shoveling impossible, the Martinez family and their young twins, and even Bill's aging golden retriever, who came to expect a treat every morning from the neighbor working before sunrise. My career as a land surveyor taught me every inch of the area. I knew the property boundaries, utility corridors, drainage easements, and rights of way better than anyone. Years spent carrying steel measuring tapes and looking through surveying instruments instilled in me a deep respect for land ownership and property rights. Then Priscilla Thornfield arrived in the summer of 2020. She rolled into the neighborhood in a white Tesla Model X, armed with a prestigious law degree and a polished smile that always seemed a little too calculated. Within 2 months, she had secured the position of HOA president during a virtual meeting that many residents struggled to attend. Once in power, she wasted no time launching what she called neighborhood improvement efforts. Her first target was Mrs. Henderson's beloved rose garden, suddenly labeled non-compliant. Next came Bill's old pickup truck, which she claimed hurt the neighborhood's appearance. Before long, legal notices became a regular sight. What bothered me most wasn't the rules themselves, it was the way she treated longtime residents as though they were outdated relics. She often spoke with a condescending cheerfulness. "How charming that you still do manual labor, Marcus," she'd say while installing yet another security camera to monitor the neighborhood. Her newsletters arrived printed on thick, expensive cardstock, packed with legal jargon and new restrictions covering everything from garbage cans to outdoor equipment. Somehow, even my snowblower stored in my own garage became a topic of concern. Priscilla never understood that a neighborhood isn't a corporate office park. She viewed the community as something to manage rather than a place where neighbors looked out for one another. Every day, she patrolled the streets in expensive athletic gear, photographing supposed violations with remarkable dedication. Holiday decorations left up too long, sprinklers running a little late, even a coffee mug sitting on a front step could end up documented. The situation reached a breaking point that winter morning when she marched across the snow-covered yard in designer boots, waving legal threats and demanding I stop snowblowing. She wasn't just challenging my rights as a property owner, she was violating a long-standing understanding that neighbors help one another without turning everything into a legal battle. 2 days later, her campaign intensified. A formal complaint from Jefferson County appeared on my front door, accusing me of violating noise regulations. According to Priscilla, my early morning snowblower was creating a public nuisance. Soon after, she formed what she called the Peaceful Morning Coalition, consisting of herself, two like-minded newcomers, and Bill, who had apparently been persuaded to join after receiving assurances about his truck. The group launched an online campaign, posting videos of my snowblower and arguing that they were protecting children from unnecessary noise. The neighborhood quickly divided. Many residents defended me, sharing stories and photos of the countless times I had helped them over the years. Others sided with Priscilla and began discussing property values, decibel levels, and legal action. Fortunately, my years of dealing with local regulations paid off. A review of the county code revealed that Priscilla had overlooked an important exception. The noise restrictions she cited applied to recreational activities, not essential property maintenance. Snow removal was specifically protected under county regulations. I submitted detailed documentation showing my activities were completely lawful, along with statements from neighbors I had helped. The county dismissed the complaint almost immediately. While researching records for my response, however, I noticed something unusual in the original subdivision documents. The records concerning Oak Street didn't align with older survey information stored in my basement. Curious, I retrieved my grandfather's maps and began taking measurements. What I discovered was startling. A 40-foot section of Oak Street appeared to cross land that had never been legally transferred, sold, or granted as a public roadway. According to the original records, that strip remained part of my family's property. Priscilla avoided the question and redirected the conversation, but the moment revealed something important. Many residents began comparing years of neighborly service against months of conflict and legal maneuvering. The following day, Priscilla organized an even larger demonstration. Local officials, supporters, and members of the media gathered outside my property. They arrived carrying legal paperwork and demanding immediate action regarding the gate and roadway access. Among the documents was a temporary injunction obtained through an emergency hearing. According to the order, access restrictions were to be suspended while the matter underwent further legal review. As I reviewed the paperwork, something else caught my attention. Fresh survey stakes had appeared on my property overnight. Someone had entered the land and conducted measurements without permission. When questioned, Priscilla admitted that an independent survey had been commissioned. In that moment, it became obvious that unauthorized activity had occurred on property whose ownership was already under dispute. Rather than escalate the confrontation, I informed everyone that my attorney would review the order before I responded. The crowd grew increasingly frustrated, but I knew any emotional reaction would only strengthen the narrative being built against me. When Danny arrived later that day, we immediately recognized the weaknesses in the injunction and began preparing a formal response. The decisive moment came several days later during a packed public hearing at the community center. Residents filled every seat. News cameras lined the back wall. The atmosphere felt more like a courtroom than a neighborhood meeting. Priscilla spoke first. She presented emergency response concerns, property value projections, and emotional testimony from residents. Her argument centered on the idea that one homeowner was putting an entire community at risk. When my turn came, I carried only a folder containing historical deeds, survey records, and title research. I explained the history of the property, showing that my family's ownership predated the subdivision itself. Then I presented the documentation revealing that the roadway had never been properly transferred through the legal channels everyone had assumed existed. The room grew quiet. For the first time, many residents realized the issue was not about HOA rules, snowblowers, or personal disagreements. It was about a long-standing property defect that had gone unnoticed for years. Danny then presented the legal findings. He explained discrepancies in the records, discussed concerns regarding statements made during recent court proceedings, and outlined ongoing reviews by appropriate authorities. The tone of the meeting changed immediately. What had begun as a discussion about community safety became a conversation about finding a practical solution. Rather than prolong the conflict, I offered one. I proposed granting the necessary access rights for a symbolic amount, provided that 3 conditions were met: leadership changes within the HOA, an end to harassment and retaliatory complaints, and the creation of a community maintenance fund that would support neighborhood projects and assistance programs. The proposal received overwhelming support. Within days, agreements were finalized, tensions began to ease, and the dispute that had consumed the neighborhood for months finally came to an end. In the months that followed, significant changes occurred. Community programs were established, residents became more involved with one another, and relationships that had been damaged by conflict slowly recovered. A memorial garden honoring Sarah was created near the area where much of the dispute had unfolded, turning a source of division into a place of reflection and community gathering. My snow removal routine continued, but now it was no longer a one-person effort. Neighbors volunteered to help, Younger residents learned the skills needed to assist elderly homeowners. What had once been a source of controversy became an example of cooperation. The gate remains in place today, usually standing open, serving as a reminder that property rights matter, but so do relationships. Documents and legal records can define ownership, but communities function best when people communicate, respect one another, and work together before conflicts grow into battles. These days, neighbors are more likely to knock on my door with questions than file complaints. I occasionally share my surveying knowledge, help residents understand their deeds, and explain how property rights actually work. After all, most disputes are far easier to prevent than they are to win. And if there's one lesson the entire neighborhood learned from that experience, it's that being a good neighbor is often worth far more than being right.